The autumn of 1945 was a strange season in the Netherlands. The country was free. The Germans had gone. The people who had survived were trying to learn what the rest of their lives were going to look like. A stage magician was about to take 30 years from one woman in Helmond, without ever knowing her name. Stay with this one, because the worst thing the war did to her was not done in a camp or on a battlefield. It was done in a parish hall, in a single sentence, by a man with a velvet jacket and a deck of cards. The family was the Meulendijks. The husband was Sjef. The wife was Mietje. They lived in Helmond, a working town in the south of the Netherlands, near the German border. Sjef was a weaver. He worked long hours at the loom for the kind of wage that barely kept 4 mouths fed. They had 2 children. Annie was the older one. Mietje kept their house. The war had not made things easier. In the early years of the occupation, the Germans started conscripting Dutch workers to fill factories inside the Reich. The closer to the border a man lived, the sooner he was sent. Sjef was sent early. By 1942, he was working in Germany and sending his wage back to Mietje in envelopes that arrived less and less regularly. On 6 January 1943, Sjef and the other Dutch workers at his German factory put down their tools. The conditions were too bad. The food was too thin. They struck. The Germans did what the Germans did. They identified the leaders. Sjef was named as one of them, whether he had organized it or not. He was arrested. He spent the next months in a series of labor camps. None of them appear by name on the records Mietje was ever allowed to see. In June of 1943, he was transported to Ravensbrück. That was the last definite location she had for her husband. She did not see him again. Back in Helmond, the war made it hard to be sad. There were 2 children to feed. There were ration cards to manage and air raids to survive, and a long winter of hunger known across the Netherlands as the Hunger Winter. The Hunger Winter. Mietje pushed her children through it. By the time the Allies liberated her town in late September of 1944, 6-year-old Annie was thin enough that the family doctor sent her to a foster home in Belgium for 3 months to fatten her back into a child. Annie came home. The family was almost together. Almost. Mietje did not know if Sjef was alive. The mail from the camps was gone. The Red Cross was overwhelmed with millions of names. Every day she opened her door and looked at her mailbox and saw nothing. All around her, families were learning what had happened to their husbands and sons. Some came back on hospital trains, thin enough to see through. Others came back in envelopes, 3 lines of typewriting and a name on a list. Mietje got nothing. She did not know whether to grieve or to keep waiting. She was tired of the silence. On 23 October 1945, an advertisement appeared in the Helmond Courant. A stage magician named Winando, the kind of name a man invents for a poster, would be performing that evening at the WWII building in Helmond. He offered card tricks, illusions, and a special feature. The audience could ask him questions about loved ones. He would answer. His real name was Henk van Huysen. Before the war, he had been a small-time entertainer traveling the Brabant circuit. The war had taken everything from everyone, and a man who claimed to see across that distance could fill a parish hall every night of the week. Mietje went. She sat in the back. She did not raise her hand to ask a question. She did not need to. Winando, walking among the audience, looked at her, and without her saying a word, he told her that her husband was alive. He told her Sjef was in Ravensbrück. He told her Sjef would come home in the spring. She walked back to her house in the dark, and she could feel her own heart in her chest. That winter, Mietje cleaned the house room by room. She washed the curtains. She polished the table. She wrote to her sister-in-law to say that Sjef was coming home, that a man had told her, that she could feel it now. The spring arrived. Mietje planted her garden the way Sjef would have liked it. She watched the road for a thin man in borrowed clothes, walking back from the train station. She watched all summer. She watched all autumn. At the end of 1946, 14 months after Winando had spoken to her in the WWII building, the Red Cross letter arrived. Mietje opened it at the kitchen table. She read the first line. Dear Mrs. Meulendijks. Her eyes moved down the page. Her husband, Sjef Meulendijks, had died on 1 September 1944 in Ravensbrück. Before the war was over, before Annie was sent to Belgium. Before Mietje had even known to start being afraid, he had been dead the entire time the magician was talking. Most women would have folded the letter, put it in a drawer, and grieved. Mietje could not. Winando's sentence sat inside her. He would come home in the spring. Maybe not this spring. Maybe the next one. Maybe the one after that. The magician had been so certain, his voice so easy in the parish hall. For nearly 30 years, every spring, Mietje cleaned the house and pruned the garden as if her husband were coming back to it. Every autumn, the leaves fell and she lost him again. She did not remarry. She did not move. The garden grew older with her. On 24 October 1971, Mietje went to her daughter-in-law's house for a visit. She told her she had a feeling. Something inside her was different this week. She thought Sjef was finally coming home. The next day, 25 October, Mietje died in her bed. She was alone. The doctor wrote it down as natural causes. It was exactly 26 years and 2 days after Winando had stood in front of her in the Sobrieta's building and told her that the husband she had buried in her head every season was alive. Her children grew up with their mother waiting. They are old now themselves. When the people who study the war in Brabant come to interview them, they say the same thing. They do not know whether their mother died of grief, or of relief, or of finally believing the magician. What they know is what their mother could not stop asking. All those years, every spring. Would no hope have been worse than false hope? That is all for this one. If Mietje Meulendijks got under your skin, hit subscribe. There is a story like hers in every house the war ever touched. Drop a comment if you have heard of a wartime con artist who deserves an episode, and share this one with someone who has ever waited for a letter that never came.